Imagine a world where there is no money, where folks just help one another, for nothing but the betterment of their village, where nature is hand in hand with humanity, both coexisting in the same space. Even the fiercest monster, the Draco, happily lets its children play with two humans. But eventually, whether we want it or not, something will always come along to ruin this tranquility. In the course of one night, a family is absolutely devastated, and a village is changed for the worst. Welcome back to Nostalgia, where I see if old games live up to their hype, or if they were only remembered through rose-tinted glasses. Mother 3, or Earthbound 2, is a bit of a strange one. This game never got an English release. They were gonna translate it, but they thought some of the core themes for the game wouldn't work so well in a Western market, but we'll get to that maybe a little bit later on. Let's take a look at Game Boy Advance's 2006 Japanese-only release of Mother 3. Mother 3 has 4 main characters who you'll play as for 6 out of the 8 chapters. Lucas, a shy boy, Duster, a thief, Kumatora, the princess of a castle and a powerful caster, and finally Boney, Lucas's dog. This game is maybe the most stylish turn-based RPG I've ever played. First, when you take damage, your life will start to tick down slowly. You won't faint until you take critical damage, and you die when your health hits 0. Sometimes, there are instances where you can heal before your health hits 0, and you'll be able to cheat death. On top of that, this game has a musical element to combat. If you attack on the right beat of the battle theme, you can start a combo attack where you'll do more damage. If you're really good at it, you can get up to a 16-hit combo. I'm not that great at this, so I think my highest combo this playthrough was about 13 hits, but I swear I've hit a 16-hit combo once when I was younger. Finally, you can back attack almost every non-boss enemy. Almost every enemy has a back sprite, which makes the back attacks feel even more interesting. The amount of love put into the sprite work of this game is inspiring and fantastic to see in a game that's pushing the GBA to its absolute limit. Other than those features, this game is pretty simple when it comes to RPGs. Each character moves based on their speed stat, it's all turn-based. Lucas and Kumatora are casters using a system called PSI. Lucas uses a lot of defensive spells, as where Kumatora uses a lot of elemental attacks. Duster has a set of 6 thief tools that he can use to lower enemy stats, flip an enemy around, stun an enemy, or even put them to sleep. If he puts an enemy to sleep, the player can hear the beat of the background song to help you time your attacks and try to deal that 16-hit combo. Boney has one skill, which is to sniff. He'll sniff an enemy and tell us what kind of enemy they are, and what they're weak to. This tends to be one of the least useful skills, but Boney makes up for it by having an incredibly high speed stat. It's very smart to fill his inventory full of healing and damaging items, so you can get more out of this puppy party member. The game starts out very lighthearted, but gets dark incredibly quickly. As the game starts, it's very peaceful. Humans are helping each other without needing anything in return. They live in peace with the animals and the monsters of the forest, and Lucas, Klaus, and a Draco kid can be seen playing together with each other. But eventually, this once harmonious village gets destroyed by human greed, and that's introduced to this village through the Pigman army. There are really 2 ways in which the Pigman army try to destroy Tazmily village. The first way is a rather unassuming way. Facade introduces money to the village. By introducing money, some of the villagers start to not trust Wes and Duster because they were thieves. In fact, one character who hid his money in a well finds that it's missing. Even though the money means nothing, he starts blaming Duster for stealing it because it was his. The second way is corrupting wildlife. The pig army starts making chimeras out of local monsters, ranging from pig flowers, elephant ostriches, to nightmare creatures such as the mechanical Draco. By the end of the first 3 chapters, which all happen around the same time, Tazmily is changed for the worst. Hinawa, who's the mother of Lucas and Klaus, was killed by a mechanical Draco. Klaus, trying to avenge his mother, gets lost in the mountains. Flint, their father, is overcome by guilt and searches the mountain every day looking for Klaus. And finally, Lucas, who's now left alone, family broken by the Pigmen. Duster vanishes due to a huge amount of water being flushed out of Oshio Castle with an important item called the Egg of Light. Facade, using a monkey named Salsa, helped spread the value of money and is trying to sell happy boxes. Heavy boxes are more or less televisions that are used to try to subdue the local populace into being lazy. After Chapter 3, the game jumps ahead 3 years. Tazmily has been very urbanized. The dirt and stone were replaced by pavement, the buildings are no longer made of wood and are a lot more individualized. Anyone who knew the truth about the change, Lucas and Duster's family, has had their home struck by lightning. Alec, the grandfather, had to move up from the mountains to a retirement home, as well as Wes. After Lucas hears a rumor that a bassist looks a lot like Duster, he sets off on his journey to figure out what happened to him 3 years ago and to start unraveling the corruption that the Pigmen have done to the Unknown Isle. In their journey, they have to go to 7 different locations and pull needles to awaken a dragon. It's said that whoever pulls the needles will have their heart passed on to the dragon when it's awakened. If a heart is evil, it'll destroy everything. But if the heart is kind, they'll start over and create a new world. There are 6 needles that are known, with the last needle that's still hidden. The first needle gets pulled before we even know about them. It was in Oshio Castle, which we actually saw when we were there in Chapter 2 with Duster and Kumatora. The next needle is outside the Pigmen Army's Chimera factory. The third needle is on a snowy mountain where we get jumped by a mechanical gorilla and the needle gets stolen out from under us. We take a fridge back to Tazmily and then go to Saturn Valley where we meet Mr. Saturns and free Duster. Head up to Fire Mountain and we pull the 4th needle. We then return to Tazmily Village's beach and go underwater where we have to kiss mermen in order to get to the other island and keep oxygen in our lungs. Once we get to that island, we eat some mushrooms and have a really bad trip where we think everyone we know hates us and eventually get slapped back to our senses. Finally, we head up to the mountains where Alec used to live and fight the masked man and some pigmen. However, this time, we have the Franklin badge, an item from Mother 2 that reflects lightning damage that Lucas will take. After the masked man shoots electricity at us, we beat the masked man and pull the 6th needle, tying it to 3 needles for Lucas's team and 3 needles that the masked man has pulled. After getting out of the temple where we pulled the 6th needle, a limo comes to pick us up to take us to New Pork City. Porky's awful attempt at making a major city. Upon arriving here, things aren't quite right. Most of the buildings are entertainment, some of the buildings are posters and don't actually have substance to them. They're just as fake as the system's facade was trying to get Tazmily to subscribe to. Boney ends up chasing after a stink bug and going into the sewers. After fighting through trash monsters, you'll finally find some apartments. However, they aren't nice apartments. The halls are dirty, trash is everywhere, and it's just dark and depressing. At the end of the 2nd floor hallway, you'll find a villager who went missing in the 3 years between Chapter 3 and 4. Letter, a character who never really spoke, but was always ringing the bell in the bell tower. Letter had been enslaved, his legs being wrapped in chains, and had a platform built around him so he couldn't escape. Upon talking to him, he finally speaks, telling us the truth of the Egg of Light. The world of Mother 1 and Mother 2 were destroyed due to human greed. Just before the world was ending, there was a white ship created to come to Nowhere Island, which was special. Due to the dragons sealed underneath Nowhere Island, it was safe from the destruction of the world. After the white ship made it to Nowhere Island, the humans decided to start fresh. They didn't want human greed to destroy the world again, so everyone agreed to seal away their memories into a tool called the Egg of Light. The egg would hold everybody's memories so that they could live peacefully. However, they left a guard, someone who would ring a bell to try and keep people's memories hidden. Letter was chosen for this role, as he was just a little bit taller than everybody else. And by a little bit, I mean like triple their size, which would make people naturally flock to him. The bell helped people's memories stay hidden and made sure the people of Tazmily were happy with their basic life. However, Porky Mitch from Mother 2, neighbor of Ness, has gained the power to travel through time and space after his interaction with Gygas in the Cave of the Past. After the world got destroyed, Porky could only end up at the Nowhere Islands. After that, he started to take things back to the Nowhere Islands to add to his collection. He sees the world as a joke and is only causing chaos as he has nothing left to feel. He ends up finding Klaus on that day he went missing, brainwashing him, and turning him into a puppet to use him as one of two people who can cast PSI Love to pull the needles. After being invited to Porky's Towers and going through about 100-ish floors to get to Porky's throne room, you finally meet the man, but he's still just a child. He's petrified and sickly, always coughing and sounding ill. He then tells us that the final needle is underneath this tower, and his floor drops out from under the main cast, so they end up underground. Alright, I'm about to spoil the ending of the game. If you want to skip that, jump to this time that's right here. I'll even do the fancy little indent. We have like 2 bosses and the credits to go over. We'll come back and talk about the music afterwards so you won't miss too much. Just really play this game if you haven't, or if you have any interest. Alright, that's enough time wasted. Let's go talk about the bosses. So after getting to the underground, Flint runs ahead and says that he's going to finish this. If he isn't back soon, you should follow him. After waiting a little bit, Lucas and his party begins to move on. As you go through the underground, you finally meet Porky in a battle, and oh boy does he mean business. He's in a spider mech that's similar to what he used in Mother 2, but instead of having a seat, it's a hospital bed to accommodate his frozen body. He taunts the party and talks about how after the dragon destroys what's left of the world, it will only be him. As you continue to wail on him, he decides to hide in the absolutely safe capsule. Once sealed inside, no one can get in, no one can get out. In the truest sense of the words, this fight is over. After Porky taking himself out of this fight, we move on to our final fight with the masked man, Klaus. Lucas's long-lost brother that disappeared 3 years ago, was raised by the Pigman army, and brainwashed to be Porky's toy to pull the needle. As you get closer to him, he lets out a huge lightning attack that knocks out the whole party but Lucas due to the Franklin badge. At the start of this fight, Lucas will not attack the masked man. You can't damage him. The only thing you can do is heal yourself, buff your defenses, and defend. Important note, your health decreases much slower when you defend. During this fight, the masked man is wailing on Lucas, who won't fight back at all. After a bit of healing and getting hit, you start to hear a voice come to your aid. But first, it's just calling out to Lucas. Then, a little bit further into the fight, it starts calling out to Klaus, telling Klaus that Lucas and him are brothers. They shouldn't be fighting. That Klaus is her son. Eventually, after pleading with Klaus to remember her, he does. We get a flashback to when the twins were in the crib. Hinawa says that together they'll complete more than they could alone, that they'll help each other when the other was in trouble. Flint asks how he wants them to grow up, and she says just like you, kind. After this flashback, the masked man is starting to remember who he was. His attacks become softer, doing a lot less damage. He starts blinking away tears and covering his eyes. Lucas doesn't know what to do anymore and can only defend. Eventually, Klaus remembers everything, taking off his mask. Finally, after 3 years, Klaus and Lucas are face to face, but it's too late. Knowing that he couldn't make up for all the evil that he's done, he fires an intense bolt of lightning at Lucas, knowing that it would bounce back. The fight is over. Klaus apologizes to Lucas and Flint, saying his final words, before he dies in the arms of Lucas and returns to where Hinawa is waiting for him. After one last time of stealing himself, Lucas pulls the final needle. The Nowhere Isles are seen being destroyed, and then we're met with a black screen that says, End. But after a little bit with this black screen, a question mark appears, making it end? Then, a bunch of the characters that you met will start talking. They'll reassure you that they're okay, that the Dark Dragon made a new home for them, that they're alive and happy. Even Klaus gets resurrected. You even get to see the absolutely safe capsule, which survives the destruction rolling around. But eventually they'll start talking to you, the player, and thanking you for helping Lucas. They ask about the world of the player, asking if you're doing alright, and finally, after saying their thanks, the credits roll. The music in this game is outstanding, from tracks that hit you in your heart like Love Theme and Sorrowful Tazmily, to silly songs that play once and you really only understand if you look up the OST, like With My Father-in-Law. With the OTS being about 6 hours worth of music, there's no way you can't find a single track that you like. The credits use the 3 most important songs from the franchises. 16 melodies from both Mother 1 and 2, and then those get remixed with Mother 3's Love Theme to create the perfect note to send off the series on. Finally, I'll play you one of my favorite songs while we finish up this review. Here's Facade and Interpreter. Mother 3's price point's gonna be real weird on this. So, it's only ever been printed in Japanese, and it was only ported to the Wii U shop in Japanese, so unless you can read Japanese, this doesn't really help you. The way I played this game, along with most English-speaking players, was because of a huge push from the folks over at Starman.net. If you're interested in playing this game, the English patch will be linked in my description, and I just want to thank everybody who worked on that project. This game may be almost 18 years old, but your work is still appreciated even today. Just to keep everything normal though, this game took me about 24 hours to beat. A Japanese version of this cart costs about $50 USD, so the price would come down to just a little over $2 an hour. Mother 3 is an absolute gem that never made it to the English markets. I know this game has some very heavy topics, especially for the Game Boy Advance, but the themes of hope and love truly make the pain of this game worth it. I know I was very, very brief when I described the story, and I did not do it justice, so if you have any interest in this game, please I encourage you to play it. In addition, I feel like both musically and graphics-wise, this is the pinnacle of what the Game Boy Advance could be. So really, if you've had any interest in this game, please play it. It's an absolute blast, and I really hope more people can give it a shot. Anyways, that's it for this episode of Nostalgia. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you on February 23rd for the next game. Here's a hint at what that'll be. Take it easy, and peace out.